Long ago and far away in a kingdom not near the sea, a newspaper columnist railed against those that thought attending religious services was all that was required to meet their responsibility to God. This false piety annoyed the heck out of the columnist. Well, it wasn't really a columnist. It was a Jewish prophet, Isaiah. But the boundaries are getting a little blurry these days between prophets and columnists. Today, Isaiah would probably be a columnist for the New York Times. Isaiah was writing or prophesying at a time of great upheaval in Israel. And to fully comprehend today's passage that you just heard, we must look at the verses immediately preceding. Isaiah is condemning those who despoil a day of fasting. And he says, "Look, you serve your own interest on your fast day and oppress all your workers. Look, you fast only to quarrel and to fight and to strike with a wicked fist. Such fasting as you do today will not make your voice heard on high. Is such the fast that I choose, a day to humble oneself? Is it to bow down the head like a bulrush and to lie in a sackcloth and ashes? Will you call this a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord?" Isaiah is explaining why God is not responding to their prayers and entreaties. This is a time in which Israel is struggling. They've returned from the exile, but there is chaos, there is disorder. People are praying to God, and there doesn't seem to be any answer. These people are behaving badly, oppressing workers, fighting, and generally misbehaving. I like Isaiah's line, "Such fasting as you do today will not make your voice heard on high." And then he continues into the passage we heard. "Is not this the fast that I choose?" This is Isaiah saying, "Is not this the fast I choose? To loose the bounds of injustice, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke." Now we see he is not just asking a question, but he is distancing himself from the false and empty practices of those around him. And he continues, "Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless into your house and see the naked and cover them and not to hide yourself from your own kin?" This litany of responsibilities, feed the hungry, house the homeless, clothe the naked, will be echoed in Jesus in Matthew 25, where Jesus says to the disciples, "I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me." Isaiah and Jesus are pointing out that God requires justice and kindness, not empty religious rituals. Of course, that was 2,500 years ago, and Jesus 2,100 years ago. What do you suppose the 21st century analog is today for this ancient admonishment? I won't keep you in suspense. Nothing's changed. And at large, the issue of empty religious rituals is just as real today as it was 2,500 years ago. And just as the charge to us has not changed, our responsibilities as individuals and as a faith community have not changed. Individually and collectively, God holds us responsible for acting both on our own in the community as well as acting together as a faith community. To not be sitting in pews celebrating the fact that, look at us, we're fasting. Look at us, we're singing. Look at us, we're praising God. But what are you doing in the world? Is Isaiah's question. Is Jesus' question. What are you doing in the world? Individually and collectively, God holds us responsible. Our time together in worship is a time to renew ourselves, to grow in our understanding of the faith, to reflect upon what God requires, and to support ourselves, to support each other, and to gird ourselves to be God's working presence in the world. Part of the challenge is that we live in a secular world that has not accepted these responsibilities. And it is extremely unlikely there will ever be a national consensus that is actually acted on in our lifetimes. Bits and pieces of compassion and justice appear, and we know that people of faith are behind that. But even then, there are those in power that want to tear them down. However, acting on our own, individually, and as a community, banding together with the greater communities of faith, supporting what is good, even if it falters, is what we do to live out our faith. Isaiah tells us, for those that do respond to God's wish and God's will, if you open your heart to the hungry and provide abundantly for those who are afflicted, your light will shine in the darkness, and your gloom will be like noon. The Lord will guide you continually and provide for you even in the parched and dried places. He will rescue your bones. You will be like a watered garden, like a spring of water that won't run dry. On account of you, they will rebuild ancient ruins. The foundations of generations past you will restore. You will be called a mender of broken walls, restorer of livable streets. In short, two things happen. As we respond to God's call, acting for good, acting for justice in the world, we are restored and strengthened in our relationship with God and in the world itself. There are points of brightness. There are points of justice. There are points of goodwill that we have helped to make real, that we have used to touch other lives, to make other lives better. All of this we do out of love of God. Amen. Love